Hello there, and welcome back to Lawrence Explains Online Academic Tuition. So it's Sunday today, and although I'm not in my usual more formal attire, I just got my hoodie on here, I thought I would just do a quick video this morning on the issue of careers for students who are, year 10, 11 and 6th form. Even potentially undergraduates as well, to be honest with you. And so this is for that bracket of students and parents thinking about future careers. The education is brilliant, developing intellectual skills, but then how do you go on to use that and actually use that to kind of make your life, basically? And there's a few things I wanted to just touch upon today that I think are important for people to think about. So again, both parents and also young people as well. Now, one of the things with careers that I think is probably obvious to anyone who looks at the broad picture, on a year-to-year basis, which is really what I've been doing for the last 7 or 8 years, really looking at the employment markets and just the whole kind of spectrum of opportunities for people. It's really clear that things have changed, almost unrecognizably, over the last 20 years. I think the changes probably started in the mid-2000s and really have just accelerated even more since 2009. Now in 2021, there are whole industries that didn't even exist 10 years ago. Several in technology. The most obvious one would be cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, and this is a huge area now, particularly blockchain technology. Thousands of technicians working on this stuff, and it didn't even exist just over 10 years ago. So that's just one example, but in almost every field there are just new technologies and new opportunities coming through, and this is something that is, I think, hasn't really been responded to properly by career services. I don't think they've been quite up to date enough. In my view, this is according to what students have kind of told me. So the first thing I would say is the kind of old rules and the old ideas. It's not to say throw them out, but they definitely need updating. They definitely need adjusting for the 2020s and beyond. One great example of that might be, for example, journalism. In the 1980s, 1990s, you go and train in journalism or you do a degree in humanities and go and be a journalist and kind of work your way up. Since really the growth of the internet, really since about 2007, 2008, the entire field of journalism has morphed and changed and shifted beyond all recognition, to be honest with you. And now I'm not entirely sure what the job of a journalist entails nowadays. There's so much they have to do that is really related to engagement and social media. It's almost like being a marketing manager as well as a journalist. So that field, for example, is one that's changed very substantially. The legal profession has also changed quite a bit. It's actually shrinking slightly, and there's even new technology coming into play in the legal profession. So a lot of these professions that people would train for, they go to university for, a lot of them have changed and shifted. And then conversely, other areas which people may have not taken as seriously in years gone by are now huge growth areas. So for example, media or computer games, computer game design, computer game marketing. I remember going to university and hearing about people going to do computer game design. I remember thinking, wow, that's so unusual. That's kind of sounds a little bit odd. Are there really that many opportunities in that? It seems like just a very specialist thing. And obviously, now that world has just grown and grown and grown. What I thought I'd do here, let's just have a quick look online. And we're looking at Business Insider here. And I found this little article the 30 best high-paying jobs of the future. So we're just going to take a look at this article, and I'm just going to comment kind of as we go through. So what have we got here? So 30 high-paying jobs that they believe are going to grow over the next decade. The reality is they don't know they're going to grow over the next decade. This is just an article, but let's just see what Business Insider says. Industrial engineers. Yeah, I mean, so engineering is a safe bet, I would say, to some extent. It always has been a safe bet because we always need to build things, we always need to maintain things, and it is a high-paid degree. It's a high-paid job because it's a very demanding job and it requires quite a bit of expertise as well. Marketing managers, so as I've just mentioned before, and this is a job that in the past people maybe wouldn't have thought of, but actually this can be a really seriously high-paying job. And you just obviously look at the earnings there. This is US dollars, but marketing managers really earn a lot of money because businesses need them, and they provide a lot of value to businesses, and it's a very specialist area. Marketing is it's a whole discipline unto itself nowadays. Computer support specialists. Okay, so HR specialists, elementary school teachers. What's this? Vocational nurses. I think they're a bit better paid in the US than they are in the UK. Speech and language pathologists. Okay, that's an interesting one. Industrial mechanics. Yeah. Electricians. Health counselors. Salespeople. It's probably quite an underrated area. People can do very well in sales if they have the knack for it. Ophthalmologists and other physicians. So I think it's higher paid in the US. That's definitely higher paid than it would be in the UK, but it's still a good job in the UK. Construction managers. Again, quite a high paid job. Lawyers, it's probably one of the professions people are most attracted to. One thing I would say on law in the UK is there are many more lawyers trained at university level than there are law positions. So that's one to think about. If you are thinking about a career, you will need to be very proactive during your degree, trying to get yourself internships, trying to get yourself a foot in the door for a training contract, because it is difficult to get into law. Having said that, it is also a profession which is changing and adapting and kind of growing arms and legs, and there are different opportunities arising in the field of law, as time goes on. I know there's a lot of new developments in technology and even apps related to law. So there's a lot of different kind of, as I say, arms and legs to that industry. I will put a link below to a really interesting podcast on the legal profession, which a friend of mine is doing. He's quite young, just a recent graduate from Oxford who studied law, and has put together a brilliant podcast exploring all of these different opportunities and the kind of new world of law and how it all works. So I'll put that in the link below. And what we've got here, information security analysts. Yeah, this kind of thing really. When I think of jobs of the future, I do kind of think of this type of thing. Physical therapists, systems analysts, again, pretty well paid. Accounts and auditors, fairly stable, I would say, if that's your area of interest. What else do we have here? Project management, just kind of general business jobs. Computer and information systems managers. Analysts, market research, this is kind of the banking thing. Nurses, financial managers. Anything else here? Registered nurses. Software developers, software quality assurance analysts and testers. Yeah, I mean, so even in this, I can see even in this article, it's quite, frankly, it is quite superficial. They're looking at some of the basics, but even, for example, what they're not saying is each of these companies in the huge growth area of technology, which will continue to be the growth area for the next decade, without doubt. Each of these companies, has really a lot of work to do in terms of, it's not just about the technical aspect of developing things. There's also a huge, crossover with specific industries, dealing with the kind of people side of things, dealing with the sales side of things, dealing with the strategy side of things. So in fact, a lot of those companies do hire, people with humanities degrees, with a science background, or just with business degrees as well. So that's another thing to think about is, even people going off to do humanities and business, look into the world of technology, because they need great salespeople, they need great management, and there are a lot of skills that people are developing that would be quite useful in this kind of burgeoning tech world. So that would be something maybe just to take away and think about. It's not just developers that work for these companies. There's actually a lot different types of people working in them. So this is just a quick video just to maybe give people a few ideas about what could be coming up in the future in terms of the professional world, things for you to think about. I actually have my own process that I take students through. I have a consulting process that I do with students if they're interested on really on helping them to develop a picture for their future and to develop more of a roadmap and plan. So it's usually between 3 and 4 sessions, depending on where the student kind of is at when they kind of come in. And we do a few different things. One of the things we do is a really in-depth personality profile, which is based on the Big 5 personality traits. It's the only personality profile which has been scientifically tested and kind of backed up and can be reproduced, and we know is kind of effective. There are other personality profiles. This is the only one that's scientifically backed. So we do a specific personality profile, which is obviously very important in terms of thinking about the field and the type of role you want to end up in. You don't want to be in an area where you just don't feel comfortable because it sounded great, but actually it just doesn't mesh with your personality. So that's one of the first things we do. I also have a very specific questionnaire which gets students to think about their career and the industries that they're interested in a way they just simply won't have thought about before. And then we go away and we start to build like a bit of a picture. We do a little bit more exploration off the back of those things. So that's a process I've been really building over the last 4 years, and students find it very useful. So that's something, if you are interested, you can get in touch with me about that. As I say, it's a consulting process that lasts 3 to 4 sessions that takes people through from maybe having a very vague idea of what they're interested in to giving you a lot more clarity in terms of what you might be able to offer and what would be a solid path for you, and also what is out there as well. And I have very good feedback on that, and students have got a lot from it. But it's so specific to the individual student that the outcomes can be very different. So, for example, I had one student who had an idea that he wanted to study one thing, and we looked at it and said, you do realize if you go down this route, you will have to leave your hometown because the only work is going to be in London. And he hadn't even thought about that. And so we actually started to explore other things, and we found a better path for him because he actually was really keen to stay basically near to his family in the area that he had grown up in. He was really happy there. So that would be one example, but many other examples as well, where people come in with an idea and we just have to make one or two tweaks to it, or I have to give them a bit more information so they're a little bit more educated about what it is they're actually, looking to pursue. So it's a really useful process, and it's one that people have been getting a lot from. So if that's something that interests you, tuition@lawrenceexplains.com, you can always email me about that. I will leave you there. I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of my Sunday, and have a great week.